Hello everyone, I'm Grellis Soupsmith, and today I'm going to be going over some cuts with various knives, and I'm going to make a simple recipe with just some sliced onions, some Italian sausage, and beer. So this knife is one of the primary knives that I use. This is it's a Japanese style knife. It has little dimples on there. It's classified as a vegetable cleaver because of the size of it. A regular cleaver would have a longer blade. This I like for cutting something like a potato because it is a very thick blade so that it can cut through it quickly. You'll notice that when I cut, I make sure that my hands are not near. I see a lot of people that when they cut, the knife comes way too near their fingers, and that makes me and a lot of people nervous. So one way to get around that is you will curl your fingers inward like a claw, and you can even use them to dig into the item that you're cutting so that will let you cut safely, and the knife will move and rest against your knuckles. It'll never come near your fingertips. So what I'm doing, you'll also notice, is that I'm not just cutting down and stopping. I'm rocking the knife back and forth in a motion like this to get a pretty even cut. So I'm just slicing some onions that I plan on roasting later for my dinner. And once again, I will show you that, so you want to keep your fingers curled in as close as possible. And if the knife is touching your fingers at all, it's really only coming up against the blade or the knuckles. So you can do this to cut them thick or very, very thin. So that's how I would work on cutting a potato. What I just did there, and I forgot to mention earlier, is you want to cut it in half and give yourself a flat, level. Cutting something that is uneven is also very dangerous. It's going to roll around, and that's how you could also possibly cut yourself. So cut the potato or something either on the end or in half to give yourself a nice level field to cut on. Some people out there will be cutting with a steak knife. I do not recommend that because this is meant to cut like a piece of steak or chicken, and you're sawing, you're going to get a very uneven cut compared to the cuts that I made with my vegetable cleaver. Beyond that, these will actually damage most cutting boards, be they wood or plastic, so you want to avoid using a steak knife for anything other than cutting your steak for your dinner. So now I'm just going to season these and get them in the oven. So a lot of people will, like I mentioned earlier, use a steak knife to do little work like this. You can use a paring knife if you really want, but I don't always recommend it. This is little work, but onion skins are notoriously tough, so I prefer to use a larger, sharper knife. Like I said before, also you're going to try and get yourself a flat surface to work with. So now that the onions are no longer round, they're much easier to cut. You're going to remove the outer layer, and I usually remove the next layer as well because a lot of times you get these inedible tough parts to the skin. They're not very tasty, so I would recommend removing them, and it's also going to make cutting much simpler. I'm going to show you how to slice an onion, and then from there you can dice an onion. Just remove all the peels. If you're one of the people out there that don't mind a little bit of the peel, that's fine. I personally do not like them, so I'm very meticulous in removing the peels. So when you're going to slice again, much like with the onion, you're just going to keep your fingers curled in and slice slowly. One thing of note is as you get down towards the end, you're going to find that it's naturally going to cave in or start to get a little bit dangerous. So a lot of times I'll just push it over so that you're once again dealing with a flat surface. And you have a sliced onion. Some of the layers will be a little bit sticky, so you have to watch out for those. Once again, keep your fingers tucked in. The knife should only be coming in contact with the knuckles versus your much more delicate fingertips. So if you wanted to dice an onion, what I oftentimes do is slice it a little bit bigger. I'll move my fingers on either side to keep the onion together. And then the onion should hold together fairly well. And you can go back, turning it 90 degrees to give yourself a diced onion. In school, we used to have to cut them to 1/16 by 1/16 by 1/16 cubes, but you don't need to be that precise. This is just going to go in with some sausage and some beer, so diced or sliced, it's not really going to matter. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do with this is put the onions into some hot oil. I've already heated it and seasoned it like I talked about in my last video. The fat is hot, the spices have already started to warm up. Stuff in our onions right there, and that sound means that it's warm. And it's going to do what you want it to, which is cook the vegetables. So we'll give that a couple minutes, and then we're going to add in the sausage and brown those for a minute. Alright, now our onions are starting to brown. We've got a nice color on them. I'm going to move them to a separate container for a minute. This is so the onions don't end up burning while we're browning off the sausage. And then using a small knife, like a paring knife, you can cut open the package. Put in the sausage. We're just going to put these back on the medium-high heat for a couple minutes and turn them until they're golden brown, and then add everything back in. We're back again. Our sausages have browned up nicely, so we're going to take the onions from earlier, add them back in. Then it's important to cook with the beer or wine that you like to drink as well. So I'm just using a regular Guinness to flavor and help cook these onions and sausage. So you're going to want to pour about half the bottle in there. It's going to foam up nicely. And then just put a lid on top and let it cook over a medium heat for about 5 minutes. So our sausages have been cooking for about 10 minutes in the beer with the onions. Now you're going to want to get yourself a thermometer, a meat thermometer. This is one I have from my work. It has various functions, and what you're going to do is insert it into one of the sausages about halfway through, and you're looking for it to come out at least 165 degrees. So seeing as that one's 180, let's see what this one is over here. This one's 166 degrees, so perhaps I actually poked through and was down into the boiling beer. So there you go. That is my recipe for a simple beer onion brats, or in this case sausage. Thank you, and I will see you next time.